Welcome back, DIY friends. Today's video is packed with creative inspiration and we are diving into 8 patriotic DIYs that are perfect for sprucing up your home for the summer season or to showcase all year long. I'm so excited to share 7 brand new patriotic DIY kits that we've just added to our website, along with our 4.5 by 4.5 farmhouse style maker's frame. Today we are working with 4 unique tiered tray or shelf sitter kits, each one designed to add a pop of Americana charm to your trays, mantles, or bookshelves. We have 2 flag-themed kits, perfect for front porch displays, entryway accents, or patriotic gatherings, and of course our farmhouse-style maker's frame, which is a staple piece I know you'll reach for again and again in your decorating. Plus, we have 1 interchangeable rustic fence kit, a customer favorite that lets you swap out seasonal pieces with ease. Each of these unfinished wood kits is a blank canvas ready for your personal touch. You can paint them with your favorite paint and colors or decoupage them with beautiful papers, rice papers, or napkins. Whatever your style, there's something here to spark your creativity, and I hope these inspire you to create something you love. I'm Cindy, my husband is Chris. Welcome to CNC DIY Factory. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming DIY decor ideas. For Project 1, we will start with the 4 new patriotic shelf sitters using some coordinating scrapbooking paper from my stash. These first 2 kits are the Stars and Stripes shelf sitter and the Sweet Land of Liberty shelf sitter. To begin, I'm placing my letters and shapes onto these boards with masking tape turned upside down so the pieces will stick to them. I've already determined what color I'm going to paint each piece, so I'm separating them by colors to make it easier and quicker to paint. I am using a makeup sponge and a variety of craft acrylic paints and pouncing the paint onto the letters. This technique keeps the paint line cleaner on the sides of each piece, and I will use a different sponge for each color. I chose these coordinating papers and cut them out close to the sizes of the blocks ahead of time so that all that is needed is to apply some Mod Podge to each block and adhere the paper to the front. The paper is not necessary, these are designed so that they can be painted with any type of paint you choose. The letters and shapes are scored into the front of the blocks for ease of placement. Once the Mod Podge has dried and the paper is securely adhered to the blocks, I will use my finger sander and in a downward motion sand off the excess paper, leaving a clean, crisp edge. At this point, if you so choose, you can apply a coat of Mod Podge over the paper to completely seal in the paper. Once I have all of the blocks finished, I will use my Star Bond CA glue in the thick formula and glue each letter or shape to the corresponding block. I would suggest a gel type or a thick super glue to adhere these. It's easier than a wood glue or Elmer's glue. Now that the front of the blocks are complete, we just need to add the back blocks to each one, and this is to create a thick enough base for them to stand on their own. Each kit comes with instructions and pictures to assist you with the placement and assembly. The second 2 shelf sitter kits are the USA Home of the Brave kit and the 4th of July America kit. I chose more muted Americana colors for these 2 kits just to showcase a variety of options for each one. I will follow the same process as the first 2 kits, changing out the acrylic paint colors to coordinate with the papers, but again, you don't have to use scrapbook paper. You could paint the blocks any color combination of your choosing to coordinate with your decor style. And here are the 4 new Patriotic Shelf Sitter or Tiered Tray DIY kits. These are the perfect accompaniment to any patriotic display. Let me know in the comments which kit is your favorite and if you like the bright colors or the more muted colors. For project 2, or if you're keeping count, our 5th project, we are using the first of 2 new US flag DIY kits. This is the Waving Flag DIY kit, and it is available now on our website at cncdiyfactory.com. I'm using the same boards with the masking tape upside down and separating out the stripes, the stars, and the star field into different sections for the ease of painting. This kit has a couple of very small pieces which will be in a sealed bag in your kit. There will also be instructions with pictures to show the placement of each piece along with the score lines in the backer piece of this kit. I'm using a makeup sponge and acrylic craft paints for this kit. The colors are Prussian blue, barn red, and bleached sand, and I will apply 2 coats of paint to each piece. Once the 2 coats of paint are dry, I will lightly sand each piece to create a distressed look. If you don't care for the distressed look, you do not have to sand any of the pieces. I am going for a weathered look on this waving flag, so the distressing will add to that look. I'm also switching out my sandpaper for each color. I do not want to cross my colors from one to another. After all the pieces are sanded, I will lay them all out on the board in their proper placement and start gluing them down. The stars are specific to their cutouts, and I find it easier to have them lined up off to the side in their correct placement before adhering them to the board. Once I have the blue star field in place, I will glue the 2 smallest star pieces along the top to ensure everything lines up correctly. Then I will adhere all of the stripes to the board, and once the major pieces are adhered, I will glue the stars into place. I am using Starbond CA glue in the thick formula. I suggest using a thick formula or a gel super glue when adhering these pieces. To finish this waving flag DIY kit, I'm using the DIY clear wax to seal everything in. I will buff off the excess and then follow that up with the Howard's Chalk Teak in dark wax, buffing off the excess to create the weathered look I am going for. I will add a sawtooth hanger to the back and it is ready to be displayed. This kit is quick and easy and makes such a beautiful statement. It would work perfectly on a porch, an entryway, or on a bookshelf. For our next project, we are using our 4.5 by 4.5 farmhouse style maker's frame. These frames were designed with the maker in mind, allowing the backer board to come away from the frame for freedom of creating with stencils, decoupage paper, stamps, or any other type of mixed media. I will be painting the frame and the back of the backer board with 1 coat of DIY paint in tarnished pearl. I am wanting to use milk paint on this frame to create a crackled and crazed look, and when working with raw wood, I find it best to lay down a coat of the DIY paint as a barrier so the milk paint does not soak into the wood. I am using Sweet Pickins milk paint in antique ironstone. Milk paint comes in a powder form and is mixed equal parts paint and water. I'm using 1 scoop of paint, so I need 1 scoop of water. I will mix this thoroughly and set it aside for 10 minutes to thicken up. I like to use a chip brush to apply the milk paint, and once I have the first coat applied, I will dry it with my heat gun to try to create the crazing effect that I love with the milk paint. I'll apply a second coat of milk paint and again apply the heat to quickly dry the paint. I don't want this to chip off too much, so I try not to overheat the paint. On the front side of the backer board, I painted 1 coat of white paint because I'm going to be decoupaging a napkin onto this, and I want the colors in the napkin to pop. I'll be using the iron-on method for the napkin, which is my technique of choice when working with napkins. I am applying 2 coats of Mod Podge to this board, making sure to dry them thoroughly between coats. After separating all the plies from the napkin, I position it on the backer board, place a piece of parchment paper over the napkin, and using my craft iron with no steam, I press the napkin into the Mod Podge. This method seems to be the best way for me to avoid any wrinkles in the napkin. Then I will use my finger sander and in a downward motion, sand off the excess napkin, leaving a clean, crisp edge. Milk paint must be sealed, and you can use any type of sealer you want. My favorite is the Sweet Pickins Oil Wax in dark. It's simple to apply. I use an old chip brush and brush the oil wax on, wait for about 10 minutes for it to soak in, and then I use a lint-free towel. I wipe off the excess, and I use a second towel to hold the piece while I'm wiping off the excess so I do not leave fingerprints in the paint. I absolutely love how this dark oil wax emphasizes the cracks and crazings and the chippiness of the milk paint, and it just makes it look old and antique. Now the napkin needs to be sealed in as well. I am using Wise Owl varnish in matte finish, and I am applying 1 coat to the napkin, being careful not to work the napkin too much and tear it. To finish this piece, I am using this tool called Frame Tacker to secure the backer board to the frame. This will be linked in my Amazon affiliate links below. And here is the finished 4.5 by 4.5 farmhouse style maker's frame with the patriotic napkin. This is perfect for those small vignettes that need just a little something extra. This frame is on our website and can be purchased individually or in a set of 5 frames. For Project 4, or number 7 in actuality, we will be working with our newest interchangeable kit, the Rustic Fence Kit with the sunflower. This is a brand new kit and can be purchased on our website at cncdiyfactory.com. The sunflower can be removed and another decor piece added to switch this up for each season. So stay tuned because new pieces will be added to the website for the different seasons very soon. I will be using all DIY paints on this project today. I am starting with the weathered wood and applying 1 coat to the front and the back of each of the fence pieces. To create the look of wood, I am using the stamp set from IOD called Barnwood Planks, along with the IOD ink in stone gray. I'll ink up the stamp and lay it onto the fence planks, keeping one hand still to hold the stamp steady while applying light pressure to the entire stamp so the ink can transfer evenly. I'll apply the stamp to the front of the fence and then I'll flip it all over and apply it to the back of the fence as well. You don't have to do both sides, but I want a completely finished look for this piece. Once I have all of the stamping finished, I line up the planks where I want them, then I flip the top cross piece over and apply some Star Bond CA glue in the thick formula. You could use wood glue, but that takes longer to set and I didn't want to wait for the dry time. Then I'll do the same thing for the bottom cross piece. Now, if I had thought ahead, I would have switched that middle fence plank with the hole in the center with one of the other planks on the outside, and you'll see why later. So with the sunflower, I'm removing the welcome word and the overlay of the sunflower, and I'm putting them on my board with the masking tape upside down so they'll stick, and we'll paint those in a little bit. Then I will take some masking tape and tape off a corner of the base of the sunflower. I did not measure this, and there are no lines on this. I am just eyeballing where I want the star field to be on this sunflower. Once I have this taped off, I will use the DIY paint in Hay Sailor and apply 2 coats of paint to this corner. Before removing the masking tape, I will use a stencil from my stash that has about the right size of stars that I need and are in a cluster, and stencil some stars onto the blue star field using White Swan by DIY Paint. After the paint has dried very well, I will reposition the masking tape to protect the blue section and then lay down strips of tape, leaving an even amount of space between each piece to create the stripes in a flag. I want the red stripe to go directly below the blue, so I use that as my reference point when creating the stripes. Once I have all the tape in place, I will use Marquee by DIY Paint and apply 2 coats of paint for the red stripes. After the red paint is dry, I will reposition the tape to protect the red paint and apply 2 coats of White Swan from DIY Paint. Now that I've finished with the white stripes, I'll remove the tape, set it aside, let it dry, and we'll move on to the other pieces. For the welcome word, I am using the same White Swan from DIY and a makeup sponge to apply the paint, and I will give this 2 coats of paint. And for the sunflower overlay, I am using 2 coats of weathered wood and a makeup sponge to apply it. Because I use DIY paint, I need to seal everything in. I am using Wise Owl varnish in matte finish, and I'm giving everything 1 good coat and letting that completely dry before moving on to the next step. Now we just have to assemble the sunflower. I am using Star Bond CA glue in the thick formula and attaching the overlay to the back piece of the sunflower. Then I'll do the same thing for the welcome word. And here is where I wished I had switched the planks. I am lining up where I want the center to be so my sunflower will sit in the middle of the fence piece. I am using E6000 to adhere a magnet to the fence piece as close to the middle as I can get. Then I will lay a piece of galvanized metal on the magnet and add some E6000 to that and place the sunflower onto the metal piece. I will leave this sit overnight so the glue has time to set. Once this is dry, the sunflower can be removed and another piece can take its place. Let me know what you think of this interchangeable rustic fence with sunflower. For our final project today, we are working with our second new Patriotic Flag DIY kit. This is our spindle flag DIY kit, and it is a big piece. It has 13 spindles representing the stripes and measures 17.5 inches by 11.5 inches. I'm starting by separating the spindles onto my boards with a masking tape upside down to hold them in place for painting. The red stripes are always the first and last stripes in a flag, as well as the stripe that borders the blue star field. So I'm removing all the stripes that are red and placing them on one board. Then I'm removing the spindles that are white along with the stars and placing them on another board along with the star field. And finally, remove that piece that frames the flag. For the backer board of this spindle flag, I am using DIY paint in weathered wood, sandy blonde, and tarnished pearl. Unfortunately, my phone died just as I was working on this, and I did not realize it until I was finished. But I created a weathered background using a technique with the IOD silicone blade that I learned from Connie at the Painted Photographer. Once I have the background finished and it is dry, I'm using the IOD Vintage Textures Crackle Stamp and the IOD Stone Gray ink to create more distress to the background. Since I did use DIY paint, I want to seal this in before I add the spindles, just to make sure the entire surface is protected. I am using Wise Owl varnish in matte finish to complete the background. For the frame piece, I am using weathered wood by DIY, and once it is dry, I will use my finger sander to smooth the paint and create a distressed look. Once I finished sanding and wiped off the dust, I am using the same crackle stamp and IOD ink to add some more age to the frame piece. For the red spindle pieces, I am using Marquee by DIY Paint and a makeup sponge to apply it. I will only apply one coat of paint to the spindles. For the star field, I am using Hey Sailor by DIY Paint and will apply one coat of paint. And for the white spindles and the stars, I will use White Swan by DIY Paint, applying one coat of paint. Once the paint has completely dried, I am using my finger sander to smooth and distress each spindle, star, and star field. I am switching out my sanding paper for each color to keep from cross-contaminating my colors. I am also sanding in different directions to create a cross-hatching of sanding lines for more distress. After all of the sanding is done and I have dusted everything off, I am using a makeup sponge to pounce on the Wise Owl varnish in matte and seal in the paint on all the spindles, stars, and the star field. I'm starting with the white and I'm finishing with the red to keep from cross-contaminating my colors. Now that everything is completely sealed in, I have laid out my flag and started to glue the pieces to the backer board. I'm using the Star Bond CA glue in the thick formula. The stars are all the same size, so they do not have to be placed in the star field in any specific order. Just make sure the star field has the points of the stars towards the top. Now at this point, I could adhere the frame and be done, but I am going to push this a little bit further. So I set the frame aside and I mixed up some of the DIY White Swan with water to make a loose paint. Then I'm taking my fan brush and I'm dipping it into the paint, and using something sturdy, I am hitting my paintbrush to create splatters on the flag. Once I have the white the way I like it, I will dry it, and then I'll mix up some of the weathered wood and water and splatter that on the flag as well. And because it is DIY paint, I'll take this outside and spray it with a coat of matte finish. Now I can use my CA glue and adhere the frame to the board to complete this spindle flag DIY kit. Yep, I think this one is my favorite, but like I said with the rustic fence and the sunflower kit, that one is a close second. I would love to know which one is your favorite, and if you would paint the sunflower in patriotic colors or in traditional sunflower colors. And what are your thoughts on the splatter on this flag? Would you have stopped earlier or added them for the more distressed look? Thanks so much for crafting with me today. I hope you found some inspiration in these 8 patriotic DIYs using our newest kits and the maker's frame. Whether you're painting, decoupaging, or mixing mediums, these projects are a fun and festive way to show off your creativity and celebrate the season. Don't forget, you can find all the kits and the frame featured in this video on our website at cncdiyfactory.com. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, leave me a comment to let me know your favorite project, and subscribe so you don't miss out on future DIY ideas. And be sure to join me every Thursday night live at 6:30 Central on Facebook for more creative fun. Keep practicing random acts of crafting, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.